everyone. I am excited to be here today to talk about something that I actually get asked about a lot, which is how I became an Amazon bestseller. But first, I will introduce myself and say hi. I'm Dr. Beth Brombos of Blogger to Author. I am a #1 Amazon bestseller, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. And I'm the author of 4 books, many of them which I wrote very quickly. And I am really passionate about helping my fellow bloggers and content creators take the content that they've already spent a lot of time and energy producing and turn that into a book, which is the easiest and fastest way to get your book out there, self-publish it so that it can be out there doing amazing things for your blog and your business, helping you build a credibility and authority and just a lot of really great things. Okay, with that over, let's dive into the story of how I became a #1 Amazon bestseller, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of insight into what I think the title #1 Amazon bestseller means, which a little jump ahead, I don't think it's that hard to do, and people are still impressed by it, which is why it's nice to have to be able to say that you are, but in terms of like what it actually means, it doesn't, I think, necessarily mean as much as what some people think it does. Anyway, so if you want to listen to the full story of exactly what I did, I do a very detailed breakdown of it on one of my podcast episodes. It's episode number 49. You can find that full episode at blogger2author.com/49. So again, blogger2author.com/49. You can listen to that full episode. Again, I tell you like step by step what I did and really go in depth. So here I just want to give more of an overview. So if you want to learn more about what I did, what you might want to do, if you want to do the same thing, go listen to that podcast episode. So this is the story of how I turned this book, Mat to Pavement, into a #1 Amazon bestseller. So this book I started and wrote most of during NaNoWriMo last year. So that's National Novel Writing Month, although plenty of nonfiction authors participate, which mine is definitely a nonfiction book. So I got a little bit behind, got a little busy, and so I finished up my book in mid-December, published it, probably not at the best time, and ultimately got to the #1 spot when I did a big push in January. But so for some context, and I guess trying to pick out what's important here in the story. And the story and the important message here is that if you choose your category correctly, it can be very easy to make it to #1 bestseller status. And this is particularly true for Kindle books. Print is different and it's a little trickier, but really the key and one of the big things that you need to do to get your book to #1, or how almost everybody does unless you're already a hugely successful author or unless you have a gigantic following. Most people will deeply discount their books. So they'll either offer it at 99 cents or $1.99 on Kindle. And so by reducing the price of what it takes to get that book, it's very easy, or it's not very easy, but it's much easier to talk your audience members and even family members and friends to buy a copy of the book. So let's say, for example, you sell a paperback version of it, or even a hardcover that's $50. It's going to take a lot for somebody to want to part with $50 of their money. If it's $1 or $2, that's less than the cost of a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And so it's a lot easier to persuade them to do that. It's not possible to do that with print books. Just the cost of actually printing it is high enough so that you just really can't get a book in like a hard copy, even if it's paperback, for that amount of money. And so that's where it comes in, why it's easiest to do this on Kindle. So you've got your book, you've been talking about it to your audience for a while. They know it's coming. You've gotten them excited. You've emailed your list, told them about it. You've got your book listed on Amazon, on Kindle for either 99 cents or $1.99. Then what you need to do is also make sure that your book is in the right category. So there are some categories that are a lot more competitive than others, meaning that you need to sell a lot of books to get to that number one slot. Some are significantly less competitive. And so then it comes down to selecting the right category. How do you know how much competition is within a category? For that, it comes down to, actually most people use software that helps figure this out for you. So what I personally used was KD Spy. I also now use a piece of software called KDP Rocket. Both of them are phenomenal pieces of software. I think one is $50 and one's $100 thereabouts. But what either and both of them will do is tell you, you'll pull up or find a category that you're interested in. Those pieces of software can tell you how many sales, or they estimate how many sales the top book in the category has gotten. And even in the books below it, they can tell you, say book number 1 probably has this number of sales. Book number, I can't remember, 10 or 20 probably estimated this many sales. And so it gives you an idea of how many books you'll need to sell. And so if you find a category, for example, where the number 1 book they estimated at 20 sales versus a category where the number 1 book has 1,000 sales, it's going to be much easier to get to the top of the category, obviously, where you only need to sell 20 copies of your book to get to the top of the category. And so category selection is absolutely key. And so that's where having that software really comes into play, and it's really helpful. It's also something that I know, I have clients who don't want to do it. They don't want to take the time to do, and so that's a research that I know I absolutely do for my clients. And there are ways that you can also have somebody help you out with that research. So you've got your low price book. You have your category selected. Then on launch day, or whatever day it is that you want to get your book to number 1, then essentially what you need to do is get everybody and anybody who's going to buy that book to buy it, and ideally in as short a period of time as possible. So Amazon updates their sales ranks about every hour. And so to get that big spike to get you to the top, the more people you can get to buy your book in an hour, the better. And so then it just comes down to getting people, again, to purchase your book for that low price. And again, you're going to have the biggest results if you can get them to purchase in a particular time window, which is a little tricky. But if you can say, for example, hey, everybody, I would really appreciate it if you would go on and buy my book at, say, 10 a.m. Eastern, maybe even send them a calendar link or something like that as a reminder. And then if they can't buy it at that time, if it's just that day, that can help. And you might want to send out some reminder emails as well. But if you can get, your friends, your family, your followers, everybody to buy your book at that low price within a short period of time, then that's what is going to get it to the top. And again, this is most effective when it comes to Kindle books because you can sell them for that 99 cent or $1.99 price point. So then what you do is you wait and you sit there and you hit refresh a lot. Honestly, that's just how it goes. And you can see your book start to climb, and then ideally it will hit number 1. Once it's hit number 1, you can take that screenshot, and then you can use that as the proof that you're a number 1 bestseller. You can just go ahead and tell people. You can also see your sales ranks when you go to your book's actual page on Amazon, and make sure you're looking at the Kindle version if you also get it in paperback. So scroll down kind of towards the bottom, and then you'll be able to see the Amazon sales rank and the different categories you're in. So I guess this brings me to the point, which is this can be a little underhanded because some people will go and they will choose completely unrelated categories, or categories that are only tangentially related, but categories that don't have a lot of competition so they can get to that number 1 spot. That's not something I felt comfortable doing. So I had my book. So a brief background, Mat to Pavement is a book that's about yoga for runners, but a lot of it's focused on the mental aspect of how yoga can help you be a better runner. So I listed it in the running category, which is more competitive. I also listed it in track and field, which is less competitive. And so that was the category that I chose to focus on when I was trying to get my book to number 1. However, I didn't think that that was like too underhanded or squirrely or salesy or anything, because these are tips and things that runners of any distance can apply. So I didn't feel like it was that far off. But if I would have put that book, for example, in like a macrame category or something, just because it had really low competition, that's not related. And that's, again, you can do it. Plenty of people do it, but I think you might need to sit down and ask yourself if that's a strategy you want to follow. And if it's yes, then that you do you. That's not something that I wanted to do. If you look regularly at Kindle categories and you go into some of the smaller categories and you see what the bestsellers are, you'll probably see some weird books in there. Again, I do a lot of research for clients in terms of putting books in the right category. And that's one thing that I see all the time pop up when I'm looking through things, is I'm like, that's a weird book to be in there. But they do it because it's a low competition category and they want to get their book to number 1. So that's sort of the underhanded version of what it means to be a number 1 bestseller, what it can mean to be a number 1 bestseller. So keep that in mind. Most people don't realize that. Most people also don't realize that if you choose the right category, all you need to sell is like 10 or 20 books in some cases to get to the number 1 slot, especially if you can get everybody to buy like within an hour or so. And so the title still does mean something to some people, but I think the more that people realize that even a not so great book can become a number 1 bestseller, it may start to lose its luster. That said, you can still totally use it to, build your authority and build your name at what you do. And I certainly use it in my intros. So I just want to point that out just so that you have an accurate idea of what's going on there. That's how I did it, and that's really the steps that you would need to take to get your book to number 1 bestseller status. Again, if you want to hear the full story of how I did this, including some missteps and how I had to try it a couple of different ways, you can listen to the full story on my podcast on episode number 49, and you can just find that at blogger2author.com/49. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. If this is something that you need a little bit of strategy assistance with, you can always set up an appointment with me, a strategy call, and we can talk through the different things that you should do to get your book to number 1. And we can certainly look at different categories, and I can help you pick the right category for your book. If you're interested in learning more about those strategy services, just go to blogger2author.com/services, and you can learn about everything I do with authors there. All right, so good luck getting your bestseller to number 1 status. And until next time, happy writing.